So welcome to the first ever of my vlog videos here on Naader Eats. And despite the ironic name, this is going to be primarily a vlog channel in which I talk about things that are going on in my life outside of food and food challenges. Not always though. Today's first one is actually going to be a trip down history, and I figure it's only fitting because so many people have asked me about it, like just time and again. So I'm just going to tell the story of my very first restaurant challenge. It happened way back in October of 2008. I was actually working at Fry's Electronics in Anaheim, and I was studying at Cal State Fullerton, working towards my teaching credential. I'd already graduated with a bachelor's in history and political science from UCLA, and there's like another year or so in which you need to take some classes that are considered requirements to satisfy the state of California's requirements that yes, you are eligible and qualified to teach any of the social sciences in California. So while I was working at Fry's, kind of making some extra money to get me through college there, I met up with a bunch of friends, and we would hang out after work and we'd eat, and inevitably, they'd see that I would eat more than them, and they kind of would always make this running joke about it. They'd always joke, "Hey man, you should enter eating contests. You should take on Kobayashi." A lot of it was jokes, and of course this is way back in October of 2008. I vaguely had any clue that competitive eating even existed. And then the subject would come around to this restaurant in Anaheim called La Casa Garcia. These guys all knew about it. I had no idea where it was, what they did. It's like maybe 2 miles or so from Disneyland and the Anaheim Convention Center. La Casa Garcia, and on their menu they have a 5-pound burrito. It's like, I'm trying to think what was in it. It was like ground beef, lettuce, beans, rice. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. Lettuce, beans, rice, tomatoes, and on the outside of the burrito they have like these giant scoops of sour cream and guacamole. And I think sometimes they put olives on top, black olives that are sliced just all over the burrito. And I think it cost something like $20, but they would give it to you for free if you would finish it. And I think at that moment in time, the restaurant had been around for like 20 years, and I think maybe 12 people or something small like that. No, maybe that's too much. Not 12, like 7. I think 7 people in 20 years had finished the burrito. So my friends kept like joking with me and goading me and just pushing me. They're like, "Why don't you go do it? We'll go there one night, we'll have fun, and we'll see if you can handle a 5-pound burrito. And if you can, maybe you have a future in competitive eating." One thing led to another. I kept putting these guys off. When you haven't done something before, like there's a lot of hesitation for the first time you're gonna do it. It's one thing to eat a lot and another thing to like eat a 5-pound object. Like up until that point, we'd go to like a buffet and I'd eat several plates, or we'd go to Tommy Burgers and I'd eat several orders of chili cheese fries. But those are not set amounts. Like I have no idea what those weighed. To hear of an object that weighs 5 pounds and I'm going to have to eat it, like that's a whole other like kettle of fish. But one night, one of my friends, a couple of his cousins came out, and they're like, "Hey man, let's just do it tonight. Let's just, quit stalling, and let's just get out to La Casa Garcia. You're going to order the 5-pound burrito, and we'll settle it once and for all." And so we went. And I still remember the particular shirt and tie I wore. I wore like an orange shirt with a red necktie. I went in there like well dressed, as if this was like, I don't know, like a funeral or a birthday party or something. I don't know, something. So we order it, and I still remember when the server brought it out. Well, before she brought it out, she tried to talk me out of ordering it because she said, 5 pounds of food, you're a skinny guy, there's no way you can finish it. But we insisted. I said, we're here to have fun, have a good time, just give me the 5-pound burrito. So she brings it out, and I still remember the way she carried it on her shoulder. Like, the plate was on her shoulder, the burrito was on top, and it looked like a lasagna. Like the way it came kind of like on the plate, that was like, it was extremely wet because they dump enchilada sauce all over the burrito. And it didn't strike me like a burrito. It looked like lasagna or a giant pile of enchiladas or something. And when she set it down, like all the people at the next table next to me like looked over with like gaping eyes and like slack jawed, like they had like their tongues hanging out. It was like just shock. And of course, there was a guy at the next table over who was like, "Hey, if he's gonna eat that, I'm gonna eat that." So he ordered a 5-pound burrito for himself. He got about halfway before he threw in the towel. But for me, this was a shock to see it like in front of me, because I still remember when they set it down, and I looked at it, and I was like, "This is like 12 burritos in one. Like this is not a burrito." And my friend just ordered normal things, and they finished like, I don't know, 10 minutes in, and here I am, just wondering if I can actually eat this. And things got very tough like 3/4 of the way through. Like the first half wasn't any big deal. And just to stay on the safe side, I actually did not drink a drop of water during this entire 5-pound burrito challenge. Maybe that wasn't so smart. Who's to say? But about 3/4 of the way in, it started to get really tough. Of course, 3/4 of the way in is what, like 3.5 pounds maybe? Like, there came a point when, I would put the food in my mouth and my body just didn't want me to swallow. And I started to feel somewhat nauseous. And that's when things were like, yeah, I don't know if I can do this. But I kind of forced myself. I was like, you know what? This is pretty much the make or break. If I can't finish this, then I can't. And there's only one way to find out. And I reasoned, I had never actually vomited from eating before at that point in my life, So I was like, we'll see if it's actually possible for me to eat so much that I throw up. So I just kept going, kept eating. Things got very, very tough. And then my friend looked over and he's like, "Are you going to be able to do it?" And I looked at what was on my plate and I was like, you know what? This is basically the size of an ordinary Del Taco burrito. I think I can do this. I'm just going to have to shut out all of the signals from my brain to stop and just push, because this is like 8 bites. Like if I've already finished what I've already finished, like this should not stop me. And so it was a slow struggle at the end there, just a couple more bites. And then I remember I had the last bite in my mouth, and the server happened to walk around at this point, and she was like just flabbergasted. She just didn't think it was going to happen. And she said, "Well, your burrito's free." And I think they told me I was like the 8th in 20 years. And my friends kind of jokingly referred to me as number 8. And some of them used to call me number 8 in 20 at work for a while. Of course, that was kind of the talk of work for a while. We took this guy to friggin' La Casa Garcia, and he ate a 5-pound burrito. Some people were disgusted. Some people were amazed. And, well, the next day wasn't so good. I actually ended up with some very, very bad diarrhea. And of course, this was in the middle of student teaching, so thankfully, I had some breaks during the day, so I wasn't missing actual like class teaching time. But I did happen to run out to the bathroom about 4 times, and I was not hungry that next day at all. Like I think around like 7 or 8 o'clock at night, I forced myself to like drink water or something. Of course, when I got home that night from the burrito, I did drink some water, but the next day I wasn't hungry or thirsty at all. Like it was just. That was the first time my body had to come to grips with eating 5 pounds of food, and obviously that's enough food for several days. Like I can't even guess the calorie count on that. Probably 5,000 calories in one go. But the next day there was no hunger, just a lot of fullness. My guts felt incredibly full that night and the next morning. And it was actually probably another 6 months before I contemplated doing another restaurant challenge. And I think that was at Fatburger. And then after that, I did a 10 taco eating challenge in Manhattan Beach at this little bar called OB's Bar and Grill. I think they're called OB's. And that was like probably another 3 months after that. So it wasn't like I did the burrito and I was like, boom, let's just do everything. No, I mean, it was tough. It was very hard on my body, and I wasn't even sure at the time this is something I wanted to continue with. Just so I can clear that one up. The interesting thing about La Casa Garcia is That challenge is also the very first challenge that Damon Wells did before he decided to dive into competitive eating himself. And of course, once I had that challenge under my belt, I began to look into competitive eating, and I learned a bit about who Kobayashi was, who Joey Chestnut was. Of course, this is back in 2008. Stoney was not on the scene yet. There was no Molly Schuyler, no Mickey Sudo. A lot of the big names of today, people like the up-and-comers, did not even exist. So I learned a bit about them. I learned a lot about a guy named Furious Pete. I remember reading about how he had won this college eating championship in San Diego, and I read about how he had overcome anorexia, like to become this competitive eater, like, and bodybuilder type guy all in one. And that was just really fascinating. And I learned a little more about his life. I read about him. I found his YouTube channel. And I would say more than probably anyone, Furious Pete is one of those guys that when I saw him, I was thinking, maybe one day. Like, I looked at him, I'm like, maybe I could have a YouTube channel. Of course, not right when I first started. I mean, when I first did that burrito, I didn't think I really had it in me. But Furious Pete and Kobayashi were probably the two guys more than anyone who inspired me to want to stay in this and to just do it. Like, those are the guys. Like, I remember watching Kobayashi eat hot dogs. He made it look so graceful and easy. And I remember seeing Pete, like, he just seemed so natural in front of a camera eating a ton of food. And of course, he had an incredible string of victories right when he started, and he kind of had like the Goldberg effect. Like, if you're familiar with Bill Goldberg from WCW wrestling, he comes in, really masterful looking dude, just winning contest after contest, match after match. And I think we just naturally gravitate towards the winners. So I'm very lucky, I think, that I found out about Pete and Kobayashi, right when I'd done my first challenge, because like seeing what they had done kind of inspired me. Not so much to become them, because when you look at a guy like Kobayashi, who was easily at that time the best in the world, you can't really compare yourself to him. It's like a kid in high school who plays basketball and sees Kobe Bryant. Like, it's kind of that sort of thing where it's like, yeah, that guy's awesome. I want to be like him. And of course, the fact later on down the line that I met Furious Pete, that I met Kobayashi, that I did contests with them, I mean, that's nuts. Like, that's amazing. I still can't believe that in a lot of ways, because it's like going from the guy in the crowd who was watching the contest to being in the contest with the superstars. Like that's still mind-blowing, like, to me. I know a lot of people watch my videos and they're like, oh, but you're established. And I'm like, I don't feel that way. I mean, as long as I've been like doing what I'm doing, I don't feel like I've really accomplished much of anything. I still feel like I'm that guy in the crowd. But anyway, I'm getting off topic a little bit. That's my story of my very first restaurant challenge, and that's what got me to stick around in competitive eating. Of course, that doesn't tell this tale of how I got involved in YouTube. That's going to be a story for a different video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click thumbs up and subscribe to Naader Eats, because I will be telling more tales of my past history, how I got involved in competitive eating more deeply, how I got involved in YouTube. And of course, you're going to be hearing about my daily life, the diet, work, school, other things going on. And I will try to give you some behind-the-scenes information about some of my other videos that I've filmed, because often it's very difficult to provide you with everything that you need to know inside of like a freak eating video. And of course, when it's appropriate, there will be links from the freak eating channel into this channel. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Until next time, stay in school, don't do drugs, and eat like a freak.